There we go. Yeah. So, I just need to get some water. Yeah. So when people send me, like, their fan stuff, it's pretty cool to see, but I just don't have any, like, input on it, like, I guess, because it's fan stuff, not really canon stuff, right? So, anyway. Would I be willing to expand a bit on Maid of Mind and Bard of Life? Fun fact, if you've ever played that game Off, like with the batter guy and like the killing of the ghosts things, I classified the Elsons as a part of life. I can't remember why, because I can't find that post anymore, but anyway. Made of mind, so active creation mind would be someone who wants to like sort of develop and groundbreak sort of new things to do with mind. They want to increase a sense of consensus among people, so like a group sort of involvement and a less personal bias and like more like logical decision makings, and they want people to stand out less and blend in more, and they might stand out less and blend in more themselves, like they want to sort of keep their own to their own kind of thing, not really wear their heart on their sleeve. And a bard of life would be someone who could sort of like gently reduce life or like passively destroy life. So they would be someone who's either wielded authority like in very rare, like very low doses, or they would use authorities to sort of gently, like, they would be sort of like a gentle father type, maybe. Like, they would gently use their authority to, like, say, no, you're not going to do this, that's okay, and sort of hold people back. And they could also gently reduce the amount of, like, life and, like, energetic kind of things in people, too. Because life is also an aspect to deal with, like, it's very youthful. It's very, like, full of energy, full of life. It's full of, like, this idea of wanting to dominate everything around you, and very immature, very, like, just going around wanting all the things, kind of selfish at times. And a bard of life could be sort of a very parental figure, either, like, gently using their own authority to sort of, like, bring that down, or just in general, gently sort of reining in that sort of, like, youthful energy in something else in a situation. So they're very good at, like, rounding up a bunch of kids and, like, getting them to do stuff. Yes, Off. I've watched it. I haven't played it myself, but I've watched it. Next one. Hey, so I was looking through your blog. I saw a bit of a discussion about black holes and suns. I agree that a black hole would be a good thing. However, in the real world, it is a space thing. Also, limited characters, black holes are a supermassive star. Yeah, in the real world, obviously, it's very different. But in the context of the comic itself, they're huge symbols of void. I remember this discussion. It was talking about, like, a pink sun and, like, what that would mean, and, like, in terms of symbolism in the comic, and how, like, pink is negative green and that kind of thing. Basically, the people are theorizing about, like, a pink sun happening, like, because the green and pink moons on Australia, that kind of thing. But I just basically thought that, like, it was very great foreshadowing symbolism of the green sun turning pink, but in other words, turning void, so becoming a giant black hole. Like, obviously it's a space thing because it exists in space. Duh, right? Like, it has mass. It's able to bend time around it, obviously, but it's also, light cannot escape it, is its major thing that people know it by in, like, the general population. Excuse me, need more water. But, like, you know, in popular culture, a black hole is a giant symbol of void. It's a giant symbol of destruction, and, like, it takes away information and blah, blah, blah. So it's a void symbol. I was thinking for a little bit, and time mages in Final Fantasy seem to be more connected to the aspect of space rather than time. I don't know. I don't really remember much about Final Fantasy, much less time mages. I don't know how to answer that. They usually manipulate reality at the current moment. Just a thought? Yeah. I don't know. I can't remember anything about that. Anyway. I've always assumed that a session needs a space and a time player. Reasons: Kelly and Celeborn being space and time for the bare minimum session. The beta session needing a time player to give their space player enough time. The troll session creating a cancerous frog after running out of time while the radio wasn't helping Kanaya. A session seems to give just enough time so that the space player can't make a frog without time help, based only on what we've seen. Yeah, pretty much. I agree. It's set up to sort of intentionally do that. Karkat, obviously, as, like, the blood player, sort of took the responsibility onto himself, because that's naturally what he does, and decided that he needed to be the one to do things. But it didn't end up working out. They didn't end up creating the frog that they wanted to, so it wasn't they failed technically in the frog that they created because they did not have Aradia as herself helping out and giving time. The only thing Aradia was doing at the time was she was actually inverted to a bard of space. So there's all these things happening. There's a larger discussion about it on my blog that I think what sparked this ask. And yeah, you need a base minimum of a space and a time player to both create the frog. Just like how you need like echidnas quills from the space denizen to scratch the time construct. To do the scratch. Like both players are needed to initiate both things properly. Like who knows what would have happened if Bro's sword actually finished the scratch instead of echidna's quills, and you know, oh, maybe that's even what happened. Like because they said it was a glitch in the way that the scratch happened that allowed Lord English's influence on the session. Maybe that's entirely it. Like, if you don't do it properly, it will happen, but it will cause problems for you afterward, like the Cancer's frog or Lord English's influence. That's a good point. And I think that even happened too in the troll sessions with how Mina scratched the first time. Because she just used that sort of bomb. Like, we don't know if she did that properly at all either. Ooh, good thoughts, good thoughts. I'm going to remember that one and maybe answer this ask later. You say the space player is the only one necessary to create the universe, but I think that the time player is needed as well. In the frog reading, they needed Dave's time traveling to get it done before the reckoning. Did I used to say that? I don't now. I totally agree. Space and time, both necessary. Incomplete because Karkat said there's not enough time left. Yep. They were not only working without a radio, but she's using time travel against them. Space and time working together to make a universe makes more sense. Because it's space-time, it's the universe. Yeah. Yep. Yep. I think Hussey simply showed trolls and protagonist in the dream bubbles because he thinks other ghosts would be unnecessary, and the dream bubbles are big enough that we only know a small part of them. It's also the reason school and classmates aren't mentioned. The humans were break, having time to play and intern, wouldn't need to mention anything other about their schools. I agree that makes sense, but I'm not entirely sure what sparked that. So, why does this stupid outfit have a codpiece? Lars, probably after Garteri. Also have no idea if he knows what a codpiece is, but I'm just laughing because I'm imagining I'm trying to take it off. What do you think the Witch of Void's potential is? I've answered that before. Is it weird that a Maid of Hope has OCD and depression? Because I've been told that I'm a Maid of Hope, but sometimes my OCD and depression make me doubt that I would be a good one. Again, mental illnesses and class spec. People think it has something to do with it because you're basing your personality, like you're basing your class spec off your current personality, and your current personality can be influenced by any number of things, one of which including any sort of mental illnesses or things that you might have. But like, that's not what a class spec is. It's like I've mentioned before, time and time again, your class spec is who you want to become. Sorry, hiccup there. It's who you want to be, it's what you want to do in life. And if other people look at you and they say like, hey, you'd probably be someone who like would reach their full potential by being a Maid of Hope. Like, and then it would be entirely realistic that you would doubt that because of various things making you feel bad about yourself. But it depends if you think Maid of Hope is the right thing for you or not, depending on what you want to do in the future. It's not something based in the present at all. It's something based like in the future, like at the very end of something. Like it's what you're fated to sort of always become. Think of like that very like positive doomy association. Would it be at all possible for a player to be realized, or at least somewhat, before entering the session at all, or even very early in the session? So like having their flashy powers, you mean, before they enter the session, or like being centered and balanced in their role before the session, because I think those can be very different. For instance, I'm not sure about the flashy powers part, because we've seen instances of at least the seers using little bits of their flashy powers beforehand, and Rose even mentioning that the power was in her little black card all along kind of thing. But, so that's a bit of a gray area that could be a yes or no. But for people finding role balance and like fitting their class spec before they even realized they had one, definitely, entirely possible. Because people mature at like different rates, and like not everyone's going to spend like 20 years trying to figure out what they want to do in life. Some people have that spot on right from the get-go. Like they dream of it in kindergarten, they make it happen in their life, and that's the person they want to be and become. And it's a very straightforward line for them. And lucky them, I guess. How would an inverted page of time act? So pages are about the passive application of a thing. doing the function of time. So a page of time would normally go around trying to apply their own rhythms and patterns and destruction of things to various situations to sort of help them along and make them do things. So an inverted page of time, instead of doing that, would focus on an active relocation of space. They could no longer figure out how to like apply timey things to their situation, to the world around them, and have it do something, have it affect anything. Whatever the skills they have, they can't affect anything. So instead, they focus on moving around their resources instead, trying to like put things together, trying to see if they make them work at all. So relocation space. Maybe even trying to draw things inward towards themselves instead of like trying to help other people. So they would get all like the negative stuff about thieves too. So they would become very like self-absorbed, and instead of trying to focusing on like the situation around them and how they can apply themselves to the world and make a difference, they would like very focused in like new stuff again, like how time players invert into like trying new things and not willing to spend time on one thing and working on it. They would just steal all these like new ideas and things for themselves and hoping that would work for them instead of like having it come from within of their own worth. If that makes any sense. I feel like I'm not wording that right. I'm always having difficulty with the pages because I understand it. I know what it is in my head, but I've so far just haven't found the right words to properly describe what I mean. It's very frustrating. I'm definitely gonna have to do like sit down and think about the pages for a while before I can like make their own post about it maybe. Oh, I'm just reading something on the chat. Wonder how much work a space knight would have. Granted, seers are understanding people, so it's easier to use those abilities as opposed to, say, a witch of space growing something before entering the medium. Yeah, see, like, it depends. A knight of space would always be trying to creative, focusing on the space around him, like organization, stuff like that, and obsessing and making sure they were doing art or organizing correctly. See, like that, it depends. Like, it depends on the nature of the class spec, because they can manifest in either very mundane ways or very magical ways, like depending on the class and like so it's a very gray area. Yeah. Oh, I think you're a hopeless knight. I wonder how much work a space knight would have. That's if you go with that whole like knights are supposed to help out the frog breeding process thing. I don't follow that at all. There's too many like fan theories I've noticed that put all this like super special snowflake class on the knight for some reason. Like knights are supposed to help out with the frog breeding, and knights always bring the lack of their aspect to their session, and I've seen nothing to support this in canon, so I'm always confused when it pops up. But like, it's just putting like this extra special status on all the knights for some reason, just because I don't know. And I'm thinking this is just because we just happen to have two main characters that are knights, which is Dave and Karkat. Because like it just falls apart when you look at like the overall situation as a whole, including Latula. Everyone seems to like not focus on Latula whenever they have these like things as well. Because Latula was a knight of mind, and mind has to do with like apathy and like not having passion and being like completely like in consensus with something. And her session didn't lack that at all. Her session had an overabundance of that. Like nobody wanted to do anything, and they weren't taking the game seriously, and they were just like fighting. Like it wasn't nothing. Probably because knights in canon seem to have a lot of relevance, such as Dave Prophecy, KK becoming weird. Yeah, see, I think it's more to do with the characters in question than the fact that they are knights. You know what I mean? Like it's because it's Dave and Karkat, not because it's the Knight of Time and the Knight of Blood. Like, so that's why it's always like, yeah. There's so much against it that I could like, go into great detail, and I have rants about it in my blog. Like, but it's just coincidental. Yeah, I think mind players would be that rare kind of individual that has like 10 tabs open in several different browsers, but actually uses all of them. Possibly. Ooh, unknown. I just saw that. Possibly. I can apply that to a lot of different people without it directly relating to class spec. I mean, I do that lots of times. What do you think an Heir of Light could do power-wise? Like flashy powers. Raves. Passive manipulating light everywhere, like raves. No. But passively manipulating information, lights, relevance, importance, like They can definitely be that sort of like sneaky advisor type people. That's like sort of like whispers to the king in their ear, like, hey, this is not really important, or focus more on this thing more, and like they're very good at sort of like getting people to look at what they want to look at, like and because knights, heirs have this very like adaptive sort of mindset of passive manipulation, where it's like anything can be adapted into something that they want, or they could be adapted into anything the situation requires. So like they can make themselves as important or unimportant as necessary. Like, what else? Not sure about flashy powers, but like if you want like heirs, like the lighty thing, like how John has the breathy thing, like they could just turn themselves into a light bulb, like boom, I'm on fire, or not on fire, like I'm suddenly a light person, like make rainbows, like, you know, that kind of stuff would be fun. Yeah, just like a human rave, like just human rave. John will master. Discussing sub-roles being a healthy thing, what would that look like in a sylph? So a sylph of something having a sub-role, like having a healthy respect for a destruction aspect. Okay, so when a sylph goes around and like meddles things and like think Irania, think very over-embracing, think they can do, like everything they do can do no wrong, and like there's always something that can be added more to a situation, like especially in terms of them, like there's always something a sylph can do in a situation, like I can always make it better, like every little tidbit, every little meddlesome thing, every little this, that, and the other thing, like they always can add something new, and everything they do is always beneficial to a situation. And their lesson they could learn from like the act of destruction could be like when to sort of like what's the word I'm looking for? When to not do that, basically. Like when to realize that you don't always have to add something to a situation, because knights aren't very concerned with how like other people do things. Like they're very self-concerned, not like selfish, but like because all of their time and their energy is focused on trying to like that desperate internal struggle of trying to get power over their aspect. Sylphs don't really have to deal with that, but the princes definitely have to. Did I say knights? I feel like I said knights there for a second. I mean princes. Sylph and a prince. Oh man, words. But anyway, so sylphs don't really have any kind of internal struggles with their aspect. They think they're always got this like everything I can do is always going to be beneficial. What they could learn from a prince is that not everything I do is always going to be beneficial. Sometimes I have to step back. Sometimes I have to let people do their own things. Sometimes I don't have to add something to a situation. And that's sort of more like what Kanaya is. Like Kanaya is a sylph with a bit more of a role balance. Like she was very meddlesome and meddling at first, but now she knows like the proper time to step in and do stuff and when not to, kind of thing. Because like, oh wait, yeah, oh, hopeless night. Your question, I see that. That's all good. It's weird knowing your questions are going to come up eventually. Yeah, I am trying to get through my whole inbox here, like eventually. Gonna hope so anyway. Yeah, that would be like a healthy way for a sylph to incorporate sort of like that respect for what a knight is and can do. Because knights are very like deal with an internal struggle of like where they can do things and like how much to destroy, how much not to destroy, that kind of thing. They're always sort of dealing with a very internal struggle of things. The sylph, not so much. So what the sylph could learn from a prince is like some sort of like self-reflection or inner reflection of like, should I be doing this thing or not? Like, and that's what they can learn from a prince. Or from integrating that sort of active destruction. Hopeless Night, here you go. Do you think that a mage would be able to use certain powers, like a white magic thing from Hope, or time shenanigans from Hope, or would they simply understand how it works without being able to use it? This is interesting, because we haven't seen sort of like what the flashy powers that a mage can do yet. And like, I know it would be something like magical, something like that, like how witches can sort of channel it through their wands, or like even a prince, like with Aridin, he could sort of channel his like Hopi magic through the wand as well, despite not even being a magically associated class. So I'm wondering if that's just something all classes could inherently do, like channel their aspect through some kind of object to let it have an effect on something. Like even Rose's here, she could do that with her wands, with the light thing. So like, I wonder if that's like mages could just do that sort of thing as well, like maybe not even focus it through an object, maybe just focus it through her hands, like Mage of Time, just like being able to focus the time energy around them in a way that they understand would have an effect. So that's probably why we haven't seen mages do a lot of things, because I feel like they would have a much more of an intuitive magic sense rather than using like a wand or an object or that kind of thing. They would more like do like the Jedi mind trick of like the hand wave, like just an internal sort of sense of magic. That's what I believe anyway. And that's why we believe we haven't seen much from a mage, but it's definitely open to interpretation. Do I have a list of class specs and their sub-roles anywhere, like Knight of X verts to Rogue of Y or anything like that? I have like a separate like aspects list and classes list, but I don't know if I have like a giant like all 144 like things like that kind of thing. I feel like it's kind of redundant at this point because I've done the classes by themselves and the aspects by themselves. But yes, I have that somewhere. If you just like look in my blog under the tag and version, that should be there somewhere. Okay. Say, if hypothetically speaking, one were a thief of mind, would they also gain already possess the associated psychic powers? Oh, or would tealwoods lack such powers? Oh, that's interesting. So like the trolls like psychic powers to do with mind. That's an interesting question. I feel like they should be able to do that. That seems like, you know, like being able to steal like the sort of cast powers from, maybe not all the cast powers, maybe just like the mental associated ones, like the Scorpio powers, or what was the one the Tealbloods have? Did they have one? Or was that just Terezi Seer of Mind Power? But yeah, definitely like the Scorpio mind control, the Taurus animal mind control, that could be a definitely mind associated power. Maybe not so much like the Aries kinesthetic psychic one, like where they're just moving objects around. Maybe not that one so much. But yeah, definitely like the mental sort of like psychic powers of the casts. Probably they could definitely use those if they wanted, or even just like steal that ability away from a person. You're pretty sure I have several posts on the class inversions? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I tend to repeat myself a lot because I try not to be like, I've already answered this before, go away, like, so I'll just answer it again, why not? Although psychic abilities are limited by the blood spectrum, so how does that factor? Well, that's being like, well, technically reality is limited by reality, but we're talking about class spect here, which can make, you know, wands of magic and stuff, like, they would just simply be able to, like, take the stuff. I mean, well, there's some canon precedents for it, actually. The head, what's her name? The Condense. She has all the psychic powers due to genetic manipulation. She didn't change her blood color. So, it's entirely possible. It's entirely possible, like, a Thief of Mind could, like, steal that sort of psychic power from them, and not have anything to do with the reality, like their blood color or anything. If you're at all into Portal-style puzzle games, the ones with organic feeling solutions, you might want to check out the Talos Principle. It's got good puzzles, slightly hidden plot that you would find interesting. I'll remember that. Thank you. Do you think that rage players have a hard time controlling their emotions, maybe acting foolishly, hurting others in a blind rage, then hating themselves for hurting others? Seems like a personal quest that would fit. Potentially for a rage player. I can also see that in heart players, because they're very focused on their own perspective and like passionate emotions, so they would definitely have a hard time sort of reining themselves in for other people, but that's a heart player thing. Rage players, I see them more, because I see it more as like the immovable object, like the barriers, cages, holding yourself back, limits. I see them more as like the opposite of that, actually, like maybe like internalizing their emotions too much and not expressing them enough, like not letting their needs be known, not letting their emotions be known. Like, and sort of building it up like a Molotov cocktail and then, like, suddenly snapping. I can see that happening, definitely, for sure. And not just because Gamzee either, but because that's personally a bard thing with the rage and whatever, yeah. But, yeah, I would see rage players more as, like, internalizing stuff and then having it, like, well, even Kurlos, she did that, the Prince of Rage. Because, remember, he used to be all, like, chill and stuff, and then he had, like, a dream that deafened Mulan when he screamed out really loud, like, I think Molotov cocktailing would be a better term for what rage players do with their emotions. Okay. How would a Knight of Hope, who's got very good control over their powers but is somewhat underarmed, hold up in a fight against a fully fledged Muse of Rage? And how would a Muse of Rage powers actually manifest in direct combat? I'm not sure about like X class spec versus X class spec fight thing, how it would go, but like, as for powers manifested in direct combat from a Muse of Rage, it's a very interesting question, because again, it's similar to like the mage question, where we haven't really seen them in direct combat much, but, well, if we're looking at examples of, like, Alec Calliope could just sort of like intuitively control the environment around her, like, I don't know if anyone noticed that, when she was finding paths throughout the void and stuff. It seems like a very environmentally based, like, intuitive control that muses have, versus Lord English having his sort of like staff and like his coffin or sarcophagus and like all that kind of stuff. He has a lot of objects, but he does have that sort of like death blast of breath thing. It's like that's also like a sort of more an internal sort of like magical force within himself, that kind of like the mage, where you can just like channel his direct timey destructive energy like against a thing, versus like a muse maybe having more like environmental magic, if that makes any sense. Something external to them that they have control over. Yeah, that's alright to go off topic. I do that myself like a million times a day, so. Yeah, I've not played Portal. I know what it is, though. I've seen it. I like the little dancing robots, and when they sing and stuff, it's cute. So I saw and asked, it reminded me of a thing, and I'm not an expert, though I guess I am sort of learning on class specs and stuff, and can't seem to decide about a certain character of mind. He's a thief of mind, wanted them to be, in a very cold and motionless fashion, get some knowledge from the mage of light of their session, and as soon as entering, go straight to his quest bed to God tier right away, but I'm not sure if that's very thief of mindy, and was wondering about your thoughts. It seems thief of mindy enough for me. Like, it's your own character, you can do whatever you like, and that's another thing too, like, not everything your character does has to be somehow related to their class spec. Like, they can be their own person, and, like, they don't always have to use their tools, like, to do everything they want to do, you know what I mean? So, if you want that to happen in your plot, you entirely can. It doesn't have anything to do with their class spec. So it just depends on what you want to do. Next one. Is it cheap to have a chronically, severely ill, cancer, Crohn's disease, hemophilia, something character to be a hero of hope? I guess trigger warning, like with those illnesses with your own discretion, because I know some of them can get intense. What do you mean cheap, though? Like, I'm not sure, like, how people think, like, illnesses and, like, diseases and stuff affect class spec, because they have nothing to do with each other, and I don't know, like, how it would affect anything at all. Like, you can do what you want. Like, I just don't know how that would affect it, if it even does, because I'm pretty sure it doesn't. Anyway. Any thoughts, guesses on Lapis, Peridot, and Jasper's God tier? I do have lots of thoughts. Lapis, I did class back as a Seer of Breath who was heavily inverted into a Witch of Blood during a lot of things. And this is from Steven Universe, if you're unaware. I love that show. Anyway, so Lapis is very much a Seer of Breath that inverted to a Witch of Blood. Peridot, more and more and more, I'm seeing her as a Bard of Heart, oddly enough. Like, just with her own, like, sort of personality and, with, like, a bit of, hold on. Maybe one that's more, like, trying to grow into her role more and more now that we've seen her more. Jasper, I'm not entirely sure, other than probably life and maybe destruction. But I'm almost positive that Peridot is a Bard of Heart that is, like, currently going through their crisis. That's the word I'm looking for. Currently going through their crisis of heart. But Lapis is definitely, like, a Seer of Breath inverted to Witch of Blood. Muse of Rage would make themselves feared, maybe. Yes, they could definitely introduce an element of fear into the environment, the Muse of Rage. Sorry, going off topic from that. But they can definitely make things look scarier and more dangerous and put up barriers everywhere and, like, limit whoever they were fighting and, like, put up walls and, like, that sort of thing. Or even just inspiring fear to them, making them look like too scary an opponent. I think that type of person would less likely to be a hope player due to them having a disease probably doesn't. Oh, they're thinking that type of person should be less likely to be a hope player due to having that disease, probably. Doesn't mean they're right, but it's probably their thoughts. Oh. Yeah, I don't understand that at all. My reasoning is actually for the Lapis having to do with, like, a Witch of Blood is because a lot of the times she has been trapped. Her physical form has been broken. She has a lot to do with chains, especially with Malachite now. She's doing things out of loyalty for Stephen. She's being very beholden to her sort of like commitments and promises and bonds, and she is like being Malachite and holding Jasper down purely because she wants to be loyal to Stephen. And, like, but these are all negative things for her. It's like she's actively sort of changing these things, and it's a witch, very like witch-like. She's rebelling, like doing rebellion, like rebelling against her authority figures and this kind of thing, and like all for the sake of Stephen. But it's like it's causing her great duress. Like even when she was trapped in the mirror, and all she could do was like change what she saw in the mirror and like forcibly attach to this mirror. Like there's a lot of blood stuff to do that's very, very negative. And on the opposite side, when she's happier, when she's happier, even when she's trapped in the mirror, she made like fart jokes. She was laughing. She was having fun. She's very breathy and playful. She even literally grew when her physical body has been healed by Stephen's like spit or whatever, right? Like the gem, she grows wings. Very much a breath symbol. I had other thoughts too on why specifically seer and witch as well, but like definitely breath blood is very strong for Lapis. For Peridot, it had to do with at first how she like ghosted mind. She was very like not used to thinking of people as individuals, more used to thinking of like people, like her gem people as like castes as a whole. Like we're not this Peridot or that Peridot, we are just Peridot kind of thing. Like not having a lot of individuality, but also being very like uncaring and destructive. Like even that like very poignant scene where she destroyed one of the Robonoids like just under her foot, even after Stephen was like, "Oh, they're like her babies." Yeah, that kind of thing. But now that she's been sort of like caught and like gotten more desperate, she's like learning more and more that individuals are a thing and like how to be like different and like people having their own circumstances, like with the most recent episodes, and like she's going through this sort of crisis of heart where she's doing things that she's never done before and like having to go into new territory, and all has to do with herself and who she is as a person. So she's going through a very like Bard of Heart sort of crisis. It's very interesting. That Steven Universe actually has two examples that I would consider a Bard of Heart, which is Lars and Peridot. Very interesting. Very different Bards of Heart, though. Speaking of Steven Universe, I had this theory, too, because someone... do you remember the Centipedal? Like, did you see that post I posted a while ago? It was like the parallels between the Centipedal and Peridot, how, like, at first they were seen as a danger, then got into a smaller form after they were trapped in the bubble, released from the bubble by Stephen, and then they became sort of friends with just Stephen, but like still wary of the crystal gems, and then like the final point was like how the Centipedal like sacrificed themselves for the sake of Stephen, and those like question mark for Peridot, like oh man. But it made me think that like the Centipedal might be Olivine then, because no, I didn't want to see that. Too late. I'm saying it. But the gemstone Peridot is a gemstone that's like refined olivine, and olivine comes from like meteors and otherworldly things, and like there's all kinds of cool like stuff. But I was thinking that the Centipedal might be some kind of like corrupted prototype Peridot, which would make them olivine. So this was my thought anyway. Before I had the thought they would be chrysoprase because of things to do with chrysoprase, but hey, they could be corrupted olivine. It's entirely possible. But like olivine is the thing. It's not too predictable. Oh, too probable. Yeah, it is kind of probable that it will happen. Like, oh man, I'm scared for Peridot. What else? Jasper. So the thing that makes me think Jasper is very lifey is the fact that life as an aspect has to do with authority and power and dominance and like top of the food chain type things, which is exactly what Jasper is. Like they're the quartz gem in charge of this whole operation. They're like they got the power and like they're very physically strong and this kind of thing. But I'm less sure of their class because people say prince, but I don't see the internal struggles that Prince would have in Jasper. I don't see like the sort of desperate destruction. Like she might be like it could be that she's a prince who's like very like set in their role, and I do see a little bit of it in Malachite how she sort of reverts back to that sort of desperation. But I'm not sure that she's a destruction class per se. I feel that she would be an active class, but I'm not sure about destruction. Because she definitely has like a lot of definite direct control over her sort of aspect, which is life, and less intuitive understanding of it. So definitely an active class, but I'm not sure about destruction. Oh, why do I see Ruby as a light player rather than a heart player? I see Ruby specifically as a Knight of Light, but a Knight of Light that deals with the facets of importance and agency of a light player, more so than like the information and like the luck and that kind of thing. Because the episode that we saw her where she split off from Sapphire, spoilers I guess, the one thing that she was getting most angry about, most concerned about, is every time Sapphire overthrew her agency, overthrew the fact that she would have any choice in any kind of thing, that because Sapphire kept saying, Sapphire kept saying like, oh, you're going to do this eventually, it doesn't matter what you're doing right now because you're going to do it in the future, so I don't care about what you're doing right now. And that got Ruby so angry, and it's like a direct attack, especially on a knight. Oh, you're spoiled! Oh no. Okay, just kidding. But anyway, so it just goes directly with her, like a sort of Knight of Light. She does put up a very much of a shield, just like to put up this sort of like facade that she is like a person with agency and can do their own things. But I just noticed more and more and more that the one thing that made Ruby unconditionally angry is when her agency was challenged by Sapphire, saying that, oh, you'll just do this thing eventually, don't worry about it. So, we haven't seen much more of Ruby, so it's hard to say, but like, so far I'm pretty sure that she is a Knight of Light in that respect, because I can empathize with that as well, like other people saying like, you have no choice in this thing and you can't do this thing and blah 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 blah, like, that gets me angry on two fronts. First on like the rebellious witch front, and then on like the light as agency front. It's like, excuse me, I have my own agency, I can do what I want, like, that kind of thing. Nothing gives me more incensed than like, I'm like a child, people telling me I can't do something. It's like, this is reverse psychology, now I am going to do the thing. Like, anyway. But yeah, that's why I see Ruby as like a light player. And then Sapphire's a Major Doom, I think is very obvious. She's very focused on like the sort of prophetic end of times prophecies, like, this is fated to happen, you will always do this thing and you can't get out of it, blah blah blah. Very like not focused on the present at all, just only focused on the end result. Very doomy. Donnie the Rebel. Yeah, I am a rebel. Could you do Lapis God Tier? I just did, just right now. Moons for the Crystal Gems. Phosphate Pearl, Steven, Garnet, Durst, Amethyst. Well, going with the whole like fusion God Tier things and having different dream selves, I would imagine that Garnet would be a player and her dream selves would be Ruby and Sapphire as a fusion. As for like the dreaming moons, I assume it would just go by like the aspect pattern that I found out, like just like, you know, time under space on Prospect, this kind of thing. But other than that, I'm not really concerned. I don't think about that much, like the Durst and Prospect split, just more so the class spec stuff. So I'll just go to the next one. I have a question about mind. Since it's about rationality and intellect, could it also be about knowledge? Like, light is information and data, but mind could be like the knowledge we have that helps us make choices, if that makes any sense. Yeah, sort of like the context of a situation or the background information, like that helps you make a decision or a choice. Entirely, definitely mind. But just like the data unrelated to any situation, but it's just data, like information to be gathered kind of thing, that's more light's territory. John's sprite animal isn't a bunny. No. John's persona is the worst possible sort. His fursuit is a Johnsy. God damn it, Johnsy sprite. No. No. You made me read some of that before I realized. God damn it. No, Johnsy sprite. No. God. Skipping that. Not even want to see it. What would the powers of a Maid of Void be? So they could definitely like sort of create darkness wherever they go, even if there shouldn't be darkness, like creating shadow. They could just sort of like snap their fingers and like make people forget things, probably. Like just sort of lose information in their heads kind of thing. They just send like you know that like what's it called? Men in Black, that little light red thing they have. They click it and it makes you forget the past little while. Like that could definitely be a Maid of Void power. Just like sort of voiding out like your knowledge, or they can make you even lose time. Like you weren't even aware that a thing happened, and you just sort of go on with your day. Like there's a creature from Doctor Who, or if you like look at its face, like you just forget that you ever saw it, and like it's the reason why you like walk into rooms and forget why you walked into a room kind of thing. That's a Maid of Void power. So like those things could be Maid of Voids. Why Johnsy sprite? Otherwise, wouldn't Sapphire as a Doom player be on both if counted separately for the moons? The Silence, that's what it's called. Yeah, it's definitely what a Maid of Wood can be. Oh, and they could definitely, Void players could definitely have like powers to do with silencing people and like not letting information pass through like language and words. They could definitely literally silence people. She also suffers from having one eye only. Oh, you mean like Sapphire? So she also suffers from having one eye only. So her perspective of time and doom is unique to her. Definitely. Wouldn't Sapphire as a Doom player though be on both moons if counted separately? Not necessarily. It's not a Doom player thing to have double dream selves, even though it entirely fits with the thing. It's just a Matuna and Solix thing. We don't have any other examples of other Doom players other than that. Solix and Matuna have a duality theme because they're Gemini. Gemini being the twins of the Zodiac. Like, it's not necessarily something that would apply in the context of other Doom-like players, just to those characters in particular. And of course, like, you can make characters that would have like a sort of like a duality or a triality theme as well, because again, like when I asked that question about doesn't light have some connotations with destiny as well, regarding earlier? Not really, because even Rose as a seer of light, she didn't like look at someone's destiny so much as she looked at the most fortunate outcome. Because light has to do with more with fortune and luck and value and importance, that kind of thing, like, which can change depending on the circumstances. Destiny is more of like a solidly like, this is what you are fated to be no matter what in every situation, which is more Doom. So I wouldn't say light is more destiny, not so much. But yeah, just because you're a Doom player doesn't mean you would dream on both moons. Like, yeah. Definitely, light has definitely much more to do with probability of things happening. So, like, different things and different variations. Like, more so than one hard line, definite thing. Even though light can be, like, very defined and definite. It's not, like, only one thing. Like, because, of course, information can change over time, and that's entirely possible. Yeah, I already did that. Can I also mention this line of thinking in regards to breeding also kind of throws Knights of Space under the bus? Like, please no, don't leave me alone. I don't know what to do with these frogs. They're gross and slimy. Exactly. Like, there's too many unfair things that pops up when you tie Knights into this, like, super special, awesome class that have all these special things happen to them in their session. Like, too much unfair stuff happens because of it, and I don't see it being something that Suburb would intentionally do. I didn't see her take it either. That's why Terezi's wording made me confused. Though it occurs to me that weird things can happen with Solix's body, either sprited or revived because he's half dead, and if any of them do wind up in Sprite... oh, that's outdated. We already know what happens. Reading Jasperos saying she has the collective memories of all dead Jaspers and Roses made me think her knowledge is around par with a denizen, especially factoring in her apparently advanced seer knowledge now. I know it's unlikely, but her current seeming semi-omniscience made me think if G-Cat gets in the remaining Sprite and combines with a Sprite freed with Jasperos, the result would be an omniscient, omnipotent on par with Doc Scratch, wouldn't it? Well, I'm glad that didn't happen. Maybe that combines with all Kelly. Oh, God, no. About the having the collective memories of all variations of Jaspers and Roses. That's very interesting because it implies that like the Sprite squared, so like the up arrow 2, implies that they are at a higher level of existence than just regular players. They have an extra. They're like operating on like a fourth dimensional kind of state. The same as I think of as denizens, which is why when you make a deal with one denizen, you're making a deal with all of them. I don't think they necessarily have all of the knowledge of a denizen, but I think now they are existing on the same dimensional level as a denizen, if that makes any sense. So like all of denizens having the memories of all versions of them, same as Jasperos having the memories of all versions of Jaspers and Roses. So they're just on the same dimensional level, not like having this, doesn't mean they have the same knowledge. Because all they would have is the memories of the Jaspers and Roses. They wouldn't have anything else extra from that. Not sure how common it is in the rest of the year, but in Norway we have Monday through Sunday calendars. And this is so weird to me. Like, I don't know why, I'm just Canadian, because look at my calendars. I have like Sunday to Saturday. It's because weekends, you know, like bookends. Like one of the weekend days is the beginning, one of the weekend days is the end. Like bookends. I don't know if you saw that at all, but Anyway. I see Raku Ishijo from Nisekoi is being Major Brage. I don't know who that is. I never saw that. I think it's because... Yeah, I don't have an opinion. I don't know what that is, so... I'm assuming you don't want your ideas and God to your personality be considered unshakable law. I think your theories are rad, but I still want my chill, jovial Prince of Life. I can't remember if it was you who said that the title doesn't make the person. It's more of a... I don't remember now. Like, you can still have different kinds of people with the same God tier title. Like, princes do have that sort of stubborn adamance of, like, they have to overcome their aspect, and combining that with the aspect of life, which is also, like, this hugely authoritative and, like, powerful, hard to contain energy. It wants to continue to grow and to expand and do other things. Like, that can make it a huge struggle for a Prince of Life to do. But you can turn that into an internal struggle of a Prince of Life. It doesn't have to be, like, externally, because, like, a Prince of Life might also ghost their opposing aspect of destroying life as being doomed. So doom can be a very chill sort of aspect. So you can have your, like, outwardly chill Prince of Life, but, like, the internal struggles they go through would be, like, absolute hell, I would think. Like, but they would come out much stronger for it. And then of course, you can have your Prince of Life, like, sort of in the state of like in their full potential, like sort of after they've gone through all their struggles, where they have more of like a solid handle on their aspect and they can wield it with like ease and not have to worry about being destroyed by it. So it just depends on the Prince of Life. Like, it's possible, but it just depends on the Prince of Life. I do notice that in my aspect posts, I focus more on the classes currently going through their struggles, or like at the beginning, versus like how they would look like after they've got a solid handle on things, like after their full potential. So like, but I gotta draw the line somewhere else. I'd be like writing essays of things for like years and years and years. Did the Terezi remember thingy made everyone remember their experiences from other timelines, or just Terezi? I'm gonna go with that first one, because it makes no sense for Terezi to be able to remember other people's memories, but it makes a lot of sense as a seer that she would have like, that she could sort of guide and give understanding to other people and help them remember things, because there's no way Terezi would have been there in those places at those times anyway. So I'm not sure, like, I don't think it would be just like Terezi remember, because I don't know what that would do for her anyway. What would it give her to remember what other people knew, right? Like, it makes more sense to like have people remember their own memories through her, kind of thing. Not sure it could have sprites squared as the combination of sprites, not a double prototype. I know, it's not a double prototype. Like, the sprite squares is what makes Jaspros exist on that higher dimensional level. Literally, with the up arrow, too. It's a higher dimensional level. I don't think sprites squared can be normally prototyped again. That, too. They can't be prototyped again. Yeah. Prince of Life being a rechuck. I need to do my Prince of Life. Look how well it went for Eridan, though. Yeah, Eridan was an example of a prince who entirely failed their challenge. He was supposed to grapple with hope and get a handle on it, not be destroyed by hope. He was absolutely blinded by his blind faith that if he just like went along with Jack Noir or Breck Noir or whatever, that everything would be fine and it would all turn out okay. He was just absolutely blinded by his own beliefs. He was completely destroyed by them. Let's go to the next one. I agree that the Grim Reader Aradia isn't holding much water. Their job is to get the dead, guide the dead, and sometimes judge where the dead gets to go or console them. Aradia didn't really do that. They're kind of more the bearer of bad news, kind of like my experience of having to tell families that their loved ones are not coming home from combat sea, whatever. Oh, that's not good. I feel sorry for you, guy. That's not fun at all. I don't think Aradia would understand the full weight of that job, considering she was dead for so long herself. Death isn't dead. Yeah, there's a bunch of people who are, like, wanting to say Aradia was holding, like, this Grim Reaper sort of role. But it's not Grim Reaper so much as it is, like, maybe a Psychopomp. Because all Aradia did was, like, pop up and dead people and sort of explain what's going on. And then that was for, like, her own enjoyment, not for the benefit of the other person. So she's not really, like, this Grim Reaper type. Like, she was more just there along for the ride and, like, interested in newly dead people because it interested her. And that's it. She didn't really have any kind of willingness to, like, benefit them. Just sort of like, yeah, I'll just tell you the truth of what happened. Whatever. It's interesting to me. Not, like, purposely guiding them for any kind of reason. So she's not really that much of a Grim Reaper. Not even really a ferryman, because she doesn't really, like, lead them places. Like, she kind of did with the one guy, but that was because, like, she was just sort of answering questions or whatever, but that wasn't her purpose of being there. Like, she was just there because she wanted to see how shit went down. Like, some people just want to watch the world burn kind of thing. Like, and that's always what we see her doing in the background, too. She's just standing around watching things happen. Like, she's just really interested in, like, watching stuff. So princes and bards have to have a balance between destroying the aspect and destroying with it. Yes, but mostly their challenge has to do with not letting themselves be destroyed by their aspect, like not losing control to their aspect. Whether they more destroy their aspect or destroy with their aspect, like using it as a force of destruction, or like just straight up destroying it, like that depends on the prince and doesn't really matter so much, but their challenge is more not to be overwhelmed and destroyed by their aspect. Whatever they do, they want to have control over it, like, basically. Like, they may start out destroying aspect, but they learn to destroy with their aspect. Like, could be the case. It depends on the prince and the bard. That's not always the case, but it's definitely one possibility. Since destruction through your aspect requires you to have your... Oh, right, that's very true. Just using your aspect as a force of destruction does require you to have a bit of control over it. So destruction of an aspect and destruction through the aspect seems like they're opposites. It's more like they're steps. So like a failing prince, like, or bard, destruction class, they would be destroyed by their aspect. Their aspect has full control in the situation, and they're destroyed by it. Very bad. A neutral is more like... they don't have control over their aspect, but maybe they can hold it off a bit, and they can destroy their aspect and stop it from happening. That's sort of like a base level type thing. And the full potential is more like they can use their aspect and force it to destroy other things. They're using their aspect as a force of destruction. So that's more like the step-by-step of things happening. I can see that. Yeah, Radia's the Joker. She wants to see the world burn. Alright, anyway. Today's episode of Steven Universe gives us how Ronaldo tried to fuck things up with his bard-like tendencies and then fix them when all along nothing was going to change really well. Awkward Strider reunion update. Yeah. The Strider reunion update. I have so many feels about that. I don't really know much about Ronaldo, so I don't really try to classify him that much. Anyway, very interested in the Kanaya-Roxy conversation. Maybe Roxy giving Kanaya a completed matriarch? Yep, that turns out to be that's what it was. What looks like at least 2 Callie-Roxy conversations initially. Update asks, you don't have to answer this, I just wanted to let you know that I think you're very pretty and intelligent. I hope you have a nice day. Aw, thank you. I like that. Thank you very much. Oh, this one. What do you think is more likely to happen? G-Cat Nepeta Sprite or Little John Sprite? Can both happen. I would like for Nepeta to come back and be uber relevant. I'm just gonna cry. Just give me 2 seconds to cry. Oh, God. Dave Peta and G-Catavros. 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 How do you say that? It's like trying to say Arqueus Sprite. Arqueus. Arqueus. I just say Arqueus. I wanted that to happen. Little John Sprite so much, but nope. I guess not. What do you think about the single void? Arqueus Sprite. I don't know what you mean. I had a sudden thinking that I wanted to share with you. I think that in the Doom life dichotomy, Doom embodies rules, and so life would embody cheating, as in getting the most in the easiest way. Examples: Jane in the Cherub G rule overpowering, Clefairy in the Dream Bubbles using the game to give the dead a second chance, and Mina killing everyone so they wouldn't have to disappear because of the scratches in the same bubbles Clefairy and Richard who created. Definitely. Doom also has to do with like the direct coding and programming of the universe, like the Tildath codes in the book. So, and it goes without saying that life is a very sort of going against what the code kind of says, finding loopholes, finding cheat codes. Like when Jane had her role overpowered by the Cherub Juju, she was definitely like breaking the rules of the game, like just making shit happen and like going through the game. Very cheat code mom, making all the zilly grist, like that kind of thing. Clefairy in the Dream Bubbles, like using the making that sort of like Dream Bubbles thing happen. Definitely. I agree with that, even with the Mina killing everybody, like finding that loophole for them to exist outside of the scratch. Definitely. Life is very much finding, like, not being beholden to someone else's rules and saying, you know what, I don't like that, so I'm going to do this anyway. Having that sort of power and authority and, like, energy to change. Very much so. Life is very cheat codey. Getting semi-close to the omegapause, I think, probably. I've always thought that only the space players needed to do the frog breeding. Does this mean any session with a space player but without a time player is doomed to fail? Yes, we've seen this in canon. Dave and Jade succeeded because they worked together. Karkat, Kanaya, and them failed because they had space. They had Kanaya, but they didn't have Aradia fully functioning at the time. They didn't have the time that Aradia needed to give to the session. Which as she's shown, when she's god tier and healthy, she can easily do, no problem. But when she's inverted in her Aradia bot sort of stage, like, it wasn't happening. And then, like, they Alpha Session didn't have, like, a time or a space player at all, so theirs was completely dead and void kind of thing. But yes, I think it's very canon. You do need time and space to have both the frogs and enough time before the Reckoning to do the frog thing and make it happen. So, doomed to fail, though. It depends on whether you consider Karkat's section to have, like, failed, quotes, or not. Because technically they didn't get the reward. The way they created the session, the Cancer created Jack Noir, which was the being, or Beck Noir, which was the being that stopped them from getting from the reward retroactively. So their failure was their own kind of thing. So yeah, I would consider if you made it like a diseased frog because you didn't have all the circumstances right, like if you didn't make a perfectly healthy functioning tadpole frog, which requires a time and a space player, then you will fail for one reason or another because of your creation, kind of thing, if that makes sense. You want tricksters to happen again? Oh god. I don't know, man. Once was enough. It was interesting, but it was also very disturbing and scary, like... Bard of Doom is a doctor of sorts, taking more care of all Doom, death. Considering Doom's other connections, they would resemble more of a caretaker. Does that make any sense? Possibly. That's one way to have a Bard of Doom. Why not? Trickster Dave. He's not a Prince of Hearts, so he has no reason not to flip out like everyone else. Oh god, Trickster Dave. Oh man. Supercharged Knight of Time kind of thing? Ooh. I don't know, man. I feel like my heart would hurt seeing that. Bard of Doom is literally Mary Eunice from AHS Season 2. I have no idea what that is, so I can't say. Bard of Doom, a very placid, probably a pacifist person. Potentially. Potentially, yep. Maybe not at first, like, because again, destruction classes ghost their aspects at first. Like, they might be very lifey, very energetic, and then, like, they go through a crisis of doom, and that gives them more respect and more, like, a focus on doom afterwards. Yeah, anyway. I'm not sure if there's a proper answer for this, but how would one know a close approximation of what a hero times scratch construct would be, as well as how the construct itself, in whatever form it takes, would be scratched? I did talk about this a little bit before. My only idea is that it has to be something associated with time. It's representative of all the timey energy in your session, just like how Sky is representative of all the light in your session and the horror terrors of the void. That sort of thing. Like, so it just has to be something that does a very tiny sort of thing, which is probably either something like being destroyed, something spinning, something rotating, something looping, turning, going around and around and around and around. Maybe something circular, but something that just follows a certain rhythm or a pattern or a pulse or like just something going around and around. And the way to scratch it is you have to stop that. You have to interrupt the rhythm. You have to stop the pattern. You have to like break the disc. You have to like stop it from doing whatever it's doing, and that will cause a buildup of a timey energy, which will cause it to like go all the way to Sky and then like release it, and then boom, you got your destructive energy. You have your reset. You have your scratch kind of thing, and you could do any number of things for that too. A theme seems to be musical instruments, because time is also associated with music, but it doesn't have to be. It just has to be something that spins, turns, does a pattern or a rhythm, and it has to be interrupted. That kind of thing. That's basically, yeah. Yeah, just breaking the pattern and doing something to interrupt that, whatever it's doing. Do you think that mental or physical disabilities can translate to what your classic is? No. No. I've already said this before. No. I don't. This is just so unfair. Like, it's just because if it does, then it's. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many bad things that would happen if you accepted that, and I don't like that, so I'm just gonna say no. Would going around and trying to name every consort be a maid of Hardy thing to do? Yeah, probably. You want to give everyone their own unique identity, and you'll probably, like, dress them up maybe and give them unique markers, give them on a hat, or, like, this, that, and the other thing. Kind of like how they gave Pokemon scarves in Mystery Dungeon. Like, I can see that for sure. Expanding on previous ask, how would an inverted Grimdark Rogue of Life act? So just an inverted Rogue of Life. So how life would invert to Doom would be, they would start to believe that they have no power to do things, that they're utterly powerless, hopeless, they can't change anything, they have no control over anything, and they are like, they're limited. They're very limited in what they can do, and so they start focusing more on, like, very focusing more on, like, seeing what rules are there. They can't break the rules, so now they have to focus on the rules and see how they can work around them in order to get what they want anyway. So they just start very much focusing more on the rules of things and, like, trying desperately to understand them and figure them out and, like, work by them, because they can't loophole or break their way out of them like a life player should be able to do. And this goes with the rogue inverting tonight again, as well as the, instead of giving up something, you would start focusing intensely on the opposing aspect and trying to make it work for you. I have a feeling either my ask got burnt, we skipped over it because you think I could get the answer myself, but I want to know your opinion on it. Which moon does the person... I don't know, and I don't really care, I'm going to be honest. Like, it's just a fan in AU kind of thing. Like, it can follow any pattern you want it to, and I don't think it really means much. Oh, that reminds me of another thing, actually. Why I think Durst and Prospect doesn't actually mean anything, and why it doesn't matter really what moon you dream on. Because they're almost at every single level, they are exactly the same. The only thing that separates them is from a coat of paint. And besides, like, the conflict between Durst and Prospect is always the same in every single session. Prospect will lose, Durst will win, they are the attackers, Prospect's the defenders, but in order for the session to continue the way it's meant to continue, Durst has to win. Durst has to, like, throw the meteors and whatever of the Veil at Prospect. So there's no meaning to whether you're on one side or the other, because it doesn't affect anything. So my reasoning for thinking this is because it's very symbolic of, like, a challenge you're meant to get past in Suburb. Like, because at first you have all your individualized planets and challenges and denizens, but the second step from that now is to deal with the Reckoning. And the Reckoning involves everyone coming together and unloading their grist hordes into the Skya, but it also involves an element of teamwork. Now you have to work together on the battlefield to defeat the Black King. And the question of, like, Durst or Prospect becomes something you have to worry about. Like, do you do Durst people versus Prospect people? Do you fight each other? Or do you all work together, disregard Durst and Prospect, and work together towards your end? It's a challenge of teamwork. Like, so for while the land quests themselves were a personal challenge for each person, now the Durst and Prospect becomes a challenge of teamwork. Can you disregard the seemingly opposites that are meaningless now and work together despite everything telling you saying you should work against each other? So it's just like a challenge. So yeah. So that kind of thing. That's what I believe about Durst and Prospect anyway. Like, yeah. So if the good side wins, it glitches the game. It's not meant to have happened. So I just think it's like it's literally about as important as a coat of paint, given everything. So it doesn't really matter if you're a Durst or a Prospect player. That's overall, like, in general, it doesn't mean anything. In fact, it's meant to mislead you into making you think it means something. Because if you think it means something, then you're going to fall into the trap of fighting your own team. So, like, the challenge, how to get the challenge of going past that is to have the understanding that there is no division between Durst and Prospect. Like, there is no black and white looking at things. There's always a gray area. There's always something new. That kind of thing. What do you think about this, Terezi? I think having a skull for a head is pretty sick. If you give them the choice, I might rock the look myself. Foreshadowing? I become another vessel, even willingly. Well, she was kind of like the whole thing with the abusive relationship between her and Gamzee. Like, that's maybe tangentially, I don't know, because Gamzee's very associated with Caliborn and then the Skull Cherubs people. But, like, skulls aren't necessarily bad, though, either. Like, we gotta remember that Calliope is also a skull-headed being, right? Like, So it's very ambiguous. But Terezi did also, like, way back in the beginning, she was the one who was dealing with, like, her troll prophets, and she was the one introducing the prophecies of angels and demons, and, like, that sort of which one do they know how to use. She was the one who introduced all that when she was talking with Solix, I remember. So she will have something to do with stuff, and I don't know if it's already been, like, fulfilled or not with her relationship with Gamzee, and how she was the one sort of, like, to revert the timeline and all this and that, so, or if it's yet to be fulfilled with something later. That kind of thing. Can Lapis be a Void player? Void is associated with water and has a void in her after realizing Homeworld will never be the same or something like that. Maybe. If you're just going with this one association, the void with water, like, maybe, but I think it's more solid that she has a lot more to do with breath and blood. That kind of thing. Oh, someone just sent me a link of something. Frisk Universe. Sans Amethyst, oh my goodness. Ultimate mom! Ultimate mom. Nice. It was amusing, thanks for that. Have you read Be the Sea Dweller Loveblood? No, but I know what that is. It's some kind of, like, fan adventure someone made where, like, they just flip things around, so, like, the cast kind of thing, like, but I haven't read it anyway. I don't really know what it's about, other than it follows Eridan, I think, and that's probably why I never bothered to read it, because I don't like Eridan. Is your sub role just your inverted title? Yes. Easy question. Longer question. I have a question that I really don't know an answer to, and I think you might be able to figure it out. Nana Sprite mentioned during the comment that the kids in their sessions had 7 gates in total. The 7th gate in John's planet led to his denizen. However, if that's the case, then the whole thing about the first gate leading to somewhere else on John's planet and the second gate leading to Rose's planet, following that logic, means the 4th gate leads to Lohak and the 6th gate leads to Jade's planet. However, shouldn't that mean that from John's perspective, his 7th gate shouldn't be located in Jade's planet and give him access to yet a different area of Jade's planet, Losaf, rather than towards his denizen in Loas? I don't think it matters. I think the gates are just, like, a way of moving between planets, and once you unlock them, it's a way of getting to another person's planet. And just the last gate is just the one that leads to your denizen, wherever it is, like. And if we assume each planet has 2 gates, the gate leading to the planet has 3 gates, meaning the kids' session have 12 gates rather than. Oh, no, you misunderstood this. It's not that the session had 7 gates in total. Like, it's that John had 7 gates to get from his planet to his denizen. And just along the way, like, the different gates would lead to different planets. Jade's planet would also have 7 gates from her planet to her denizen. Like, otherwise, like, the final gate would always lead to John's denizen, which wouldn't make any sense. So it's not that it has 7 gates total, it's just John's particular planet had 7 gates. The same as all the other ones. So in actuality, the total number of gates in their session would be 28, with all the final ones leading to their respective denizens. That's how that works. Donnie, what do I think of Pearl's claspect? Say Maid of Hope. Since her arc went around her not relying on others to believe in herself, okay. I'm not sure. I had a lot of different thoughts about Pearl, but she flops around a lot on various things. I'm not sure about Pearl, actually, so I'd have to think about her more. What did those grist sprigs do? I never understood that. They're just energy powering up the final alchemy of the frog. That's all. I got bored, so I decided to combine the Night of Time and Major Time outfits. Cool. In the Keep It Together episode of Steven Universe, we're told by Garnet that her brains and brawn are a little bit of both of Ruby and Sapphire, which is true if we look at theorized classics that you gave them. Ruby being a Knight of Light right there, so she can be clever and smart if she wants to be, it's just that she tends to give a tough-like personality. And Sapphire, due to the nature of being a mage, is automatically smart, but the mage's ordeal can be proof of her strength as well. Also, this might just be me, that Sugilite seems to have a thief-like personality, being super confident in her ability and such. Now, as for aspect, maybe time. Yes, the thing about the more than 2 fusions class specs is we don't know, like, because Garnet fuses on an aspect level, right? But I don't know how, like, say, Amethyst would fuse with Ruby or with Sapphire, if they would do it on the class for an aspect level, and then the 3 of them together, how they would, like, go together. So it's difficult to figure out, like, what kind of class spec Sugilite would have, if they would have 2 or 3 classes or aspects at a time, because there's 3 people involved. And that's why I don't class back to something like Alexandrite or Sardonyx as well, because it's the same kind of problem of figuring out who who blends with who on what level and this kind of thing. So it gets into too many possibilities. So I'm not sure. So that's why I don't want to the higher fusions. I guess I wasn't really sure. What do you think is the most powerful weapon we've seen in Homestuck? I was thinking Doc Scratch's gun, but it's not really something another player could get. Ahab's crosshairs has been shown to be sort of a god weapon. Not to mention Dave's sword, Rose's thorns, John's hammer, Visca's dice, Science wand. I wasn't really caring really much about the weapons in Homestuck because it seemed like something pretty inconsequential. Like even when you reach god tier, like your Strife Specibus and all that, like you can use whatever weapon you want to use, and I don't know, it doesn't really mean anything. It's more like just a way of your class spec powers to manifest themselves in reality, I guess. And I don't know, it just depends. I don't think I really care much about the weapons and the Strife Specibus in general because it just seems very inconsequential compared to like their actual god tier powers. I want to start watching Steven Universe, but I don't know where I can find it. Can you help me? It used to be hosted on kisscartoon.me, but that site is like down. I don't know why, and I wanted, or at least it doesn't work very much all the time. But yeah, that's a good place to watch all kinds of cartoons. That's where I've been watching it anyway, and it updates really frequently too. So the fridge is missing. Yeah, Gamesy fridge. Do fan sessions have to have as many sprites prototyped pre-entry as there are players, and do all denizens have to be defeated or spoken to in order for the Grist Horde to be released at the end and for the players to win? We know the answer to this one, which is a no, because Arceus Sprite does it by himself. But we know that you have to prototype everything pre-entry, like you have to at least do it once, because we know this because that's why Jane and them session failed. They didn't prototype anything pre-entry. So they have to, like, in order for the Skya to fully evolve, like we saw the different steps of the chessboard evolution, in order to get it fully evolved, everything has to be pre-prototyped at least once. So that's a yes. This is a no. This is a no. In a game like mine with tons of players and denizens, that would be really difficult to work with. Can it be a minimum of 4 for humans and 12 for trolls? No, see, I think the evolutions of the chessboard would be divided in recession based on how many sprites there were to pre-entry prototyping. Like, you would have to do all of them. But you don't have to talk to or defeat necessarily all the denizens to unlock your Grist Horde, as we've seen Arceus do. I really doubt Arceus did all that. If it isn't too much trouble, how does one go about self-assigning a class and aspect to themselves? 144 different combinations. Every time I sit down to think about them, I find a trait or feature that clings to me to a new class spec. What is assignment based on? Your influence upon the reality, your thoughts and actions. Sort of both, but not your current ones. The ones that you want to have at the end of your life, the ones that you want to be remembered for, like the kind of person that you want to become during your life. That's what class spec is. It's the final title or epithet that people will remember you after you're dead. To be poetic, it's how you stay immortal after you're gone, kind of thing. It's the major thing, idea, person that you are known as and known for, kind of thing, because it's who you are at your very best. It's who you are when you've made your most impact on reality, that sort of thing. So you can't really base it on your current personality traits, especially if you have no idea about any of that stuff, because that will constantly change. Like, people are always like constantly changing in their personalities, and this heart is a very aspect that's very much in flux. And so that's why I don't like the personality tests. Again, like it doesn't work like that. You can't take a personality test to get a class spec. It won't work. It won't give you what you should be or what you will become. It'll just give you what you are right now. Which, I mean, you know, might be useful if you like the person you are right now, but it's not applicable to everything. Have you watched Rex Duodecim Angelus on YouTube? It's a fan-made video about the Trolls' battle against the Black King. It's pretty good. You should watch it. Maybe later. I've heard about that, but maybe later. Yes, this is where Jasper, people were sending me things like Jasper could be a prince of life or a prince of some kind. I agree with the life thing so far. I'm still undecided about the prince, but I'm feeling definitely an active class for Jasper. Pardon my abruptness, but can I possibly pitch some ideas I have on class spec theory towards you? I've been looking for people deep in the sector of Homestuck for a while to put my theories to the test, but I've had bad luck in the past doing so. Like, yeah, entirely. Go right ahead. This has been messing with me forever. If a guy gets to Sylph class, would they be stuck wearing a dress? Because I laugh a little whenever I think of a male Sylph looking at people asking about the dress and going, it's a robe. Or would the outfit turn into something else? Same with female bards and codpieces. We've seen people being able to change their god tier outfits. Like, Mina does that all the time. And Vriska does that when they have their little fight. So, yeah, it's entirely possible. You don't have to be like whatever that thing is. You can modify it to make it more comfortable for yourself. I probably wouldn't wear a skirt as a witch personally myself. I would wear pants. I'm kind of new to this blog and saw how you talk about the personality of certain classes and what they do, but I'm not sure if someone has asked this already, but I'm a Witch of Breath, and what are they supposed to do? I had this up already, but a Witch of Breath, sorry, I'm just getting more comfortable. A Witch of Breath active change through like motivation, inspiration, independence, and this sort of thing. They would manipulate that around, and I saw them as a very like tornado kind of people. Like they're rebellious, they're active, they're going out and making a change in the world. They're like encouraging independence in people and like moving around, like inspiring motivation people. They're like very activisty type peoples. They're getting stuff done. They're movers, they're shakers. They're, you know what I mean? Like but they're also rebelling against certain parts of breath, which could be things like just like the sort of floaty, apathetic, not caring. You know, like, oh, we're just all play, no work, and blah, blah, blah. Like, they're a mover and the shaker, so they're probably, like, rebelling against those sort of things. And like, no, we're going to do this, and we're going to do it awesome, and let's get pumped. Yeah, energy, that kind of thing. So, like, very, very, very hyperactive sort of people. And I mentioned, too, before that they may be a little over-eager on that front, too willing to sort of rip up people's foundations and get them to disregard their previous commitments and promises, obligations, things that hold them down, and like lift them up like a tornado and set themselves somewhere else down, feeling dizzy and spun out and all that kind of thing. And they have to be wary about like wondering about which things people are beholden to that they don't mind. Like you're bonded to your family, or you're bonded to your job, or you have a commitment to this person, or this, that, and the other thing, and you don't necessarily want to go off and be independent from that and break that connection. So Witch of Breath has to learn like when to say, break all your connections and all the things that hold you down and tie you down and this and that, and just go off and do your own thing. Like, some people may or may not want to do that in different doses, so it's the kind of person that they are. Very interesting. Female bard with a codpiece. Female bards would wear a cone bra. Yes! Oh, that's perfect. Oh. Yeah, but they can still wear whatever, like, you know, codpiece, big giant extra pocket, why not? Like, who cares? It's just an outfit. Then people, even if you're god tier, you don't even have to wear the outfit all the time. Yeah. I wondered what your take on a giant PvP battle between all the classes. Who do you think would be on top? It doesn't work like that at all. They all have equal powers. It's just tools. Who would win depends on the person involved. Like, if the person involved is like over-embracing, if they're inverting, if they've grown into their role, if they're not, if they've just been god-tiered, or if they've been god-tiered for a long time. Like, it depends on the person. Like, especially in a giant PvP battle. Like, that can go any number of ways. I have no idea. Had an idea. Oh, again, your chair obsession. It's very interesting, but I don't really have much to say about it. Do you think a trait about a Knight of Space could be them being indecisive, trying to choose god tiers for some characters? Yeah, so like the Knights sort of like shielding obsessive effort into like a bunch of new things all the time. They can be very indecisive. For sure, I can see that. Do First Guardians all have the same powers or not? Excuse me. I'm getting hungry now. Do First Guardians all have the same powers or not? Look how ladylike I am. This is a bit of a weird question because I'm not sure all sessions would have First Guardians because they're directly tied to this concept of the Green Sun, which is extremely plot relevant to just the trolls in the human session currently. So I'm not sure if First Guardians would be a thing in all cases. Like, so I don't know. But I'm not. Their source of power could definitely be different because I don't see all First Guardians having the Green Sun as their source of power. So depending on what is their source of power, like, I don't know. It depends on a lot of things that I don't have a lot of answers for. So I have no idea. Could a Thief of Doom have a and then even then someone mentioned like, well, your own session can make your own Green Sun, and who cares? Like, So it depends. Could a Thief of Doom have the habit of picking up old junk wherever they find it and hoarding it for no real reason? Like, hey, an old rusty gear, cool. And then just putting in their own stash of scrap metal and other broken junk? Yeah, this sounds like something one of them could do. Why not? Would a fantastical medic who can turn people into almost anything and break the laws of nature, who often causes trouble by putting people into fates worse than death to avoid death and cause catastrophes because she doesn't think about all the ways her creation metamorphosis could turn wrong, be an over-embracing witch of space? Possibly. That's one way you could do a witch of space. I was also thinking witch of doom there for a second because fate's worse than death to avoid death, catastrophes, life, all that, breaking the rules of what death is. So something like that. Maybe, possibly. That's one way you could go around doing that. Yeah, bar that for first guardians, precognizance and omnipotence are probably fairly universal. Like, probably. I don't know who Frank and Fran is. Is that what they're talking about with this? I have no idea who that is. Could a bard of blood's actual blood be incredibly deadly? Like the bard goes out through their crisis when their friends leave them and the blood bursts out of their bodies and starts to destroy everything around like a blood tornado. Oh, that's pretty dark. You can see a bunch of metal or stone scrap coming to life around them as well. Destruction through blood when the bard treats those monsters like they're their bard's real friends. As the blood NATO keeps everyone else away. Worst case scenario for bard blood. That's a very like flashy power type thing they could do, but literally destroying stuff with their own blood. Like, yeah, you could do that. Blood tornado. Not necessarily every bard of blood would do that, but that's entirely something possible. Do you think in a session a Thief of Mind might take the leader role in the team? How do you think a Thief of Mind would view fate and inevitability? I think a Thief of Mind at first would be very, very used to wanting to like make all the decisions for people, so I could see them taking on, like forcibly taking on a leader role like that, and leaving everyone in sort of arguments and like this kind of thing. How they would view fate and inevitability? I don't know. Thief of Mind, they just sort of make rational decisions. There's a tendency for, but it also depends too, because mind has to do with like apathy as an opposite to heart's passion. So they might be apathetic about leading everything. They may think they know the right thing to do, but not really care to put it into action. So whether or not they're a leader or not, like, depends on the Thief of Mind. And this entirely depends on the character in general too, I think. The fate and inevitability. How they think about things depends on the character. What powers and abilities would a Mage of Heart have? Honestly, I have no idea outside of Mulan's matchmaking. I had the idea that they would experience like people's souls. So it's like they have a super empathy kind of power. They know exactly who other people are, their likes, their dislikes, and like this is why Mulan is good at matchmaking kind of thing, because she understands people, like, or at least her version of she understands it from her point of view kind of thing. So like a super empathy kind of thing. They would directly, like, they would probably have a good grasp of an internal sense of their own emotions and the emotions of other people. Again, with, like, the whole empath kind of thing. They might get, like, an emotional reading of the room and, like, know how to handle things, like that kind of stuff. My roommates are home. I'm going to be quiet for a second. But yeah, that's Mage of Heart. Have I ever class-backed the Harry Potter characters? Nope. I have not read, like, I've seen bits and pieces of it, like, some books, some movies, this and that, but I don't have enough of, like, a strong grasp on the Harry Potter characters to be able to, like, do that properly, so I haven't yet. I don't really have much of an idea as to, because they're very, like, complex characters, and a lot of people have written a lot of, like, discourse on them. And I think my roommate brought her little brother out. Or over, I mean. I think I can go for like 10 more minutes if possible, because like I don't be like the weirdo talking to myself alone in my room doing this. If I could choose a Pokemon for each better troll, which would I pick? Let's see. Crawdaunt for Karkat, obviously. Maybe like Litleo for Nipita. I don't know, I'm very, like, stereotypical, like, Zodiac Pokemon is what I would pick. I'm probably late to the party, but I just noticed that all the ancestor trolls mentioned were counterparts to the remaining dead trolls. She's talking to Mina herself for Fairy, as well as mentioning Mila and Kronos for Nepeta and Erden. The mention of Natuna but Solix is only half dead. I can't that's further teasing of reviving an Empora and or Pixies are just a quinky dink, but I found it interesting. There was a lot of teasing for like reviving them. This is what makes me so angry. There was like a lot of blatant like, you know, they thought they were gonna make a rational decision about it, or like in terms of reviving those 4 trolls, like, or at least making them go god tier by throwing their dead bodies on like a god tier bed, because the 4 aspects in the Alpha Human session was on Durst you had Void and Heart, you had Equius and Nepeta, and on Prospect for them you had Hope and Life, you had Feferi and Erden. So like that's why I was like, oh, if only like the Prospect, like the moons wasn't destroyed in the Alpha session that they went to, they could have like revived all 4 of the characters and make them go god tier. Like they could have done that, and they didn't. It makes me sad. Anyway. Oh, there's a email. I'm guessing Tumblr ate my previous 2 asks because you didn't answer them. Gotta hate how you can't tell when Tumblr eats an ask. Yep. It's pretty much involved prospecting the Steven Universe. Yeah. Garnet, Ruby. So. Yeah, lots of people seem Sigalite Thief. They keep throwing that at me, so I'm not sure. But again, it's a bit too difficult to think about when you got like 3 or more souls in a person's all interacting with each other, so it's harder to figure out. Anyway, yeah, Steven Universe class specs. Already did that. Yeah, I'm starting to hear more and more noises, and I don't want to be like the weirdo in my room, so I'm gonna stop for now. I've been doing this since like 4:30, I think, anyway, so it's been about 2.5 hours. I should probably give my voice a rest because I've been talking and talking and talking. But anyway, I'll stop right here, and I'll see you guys later then, eh? I'll just do this later. See ya!